We talked before about the six parts of financial system and the importance of financial system and the role of financial system in economy. And throughout this mechanism, uh, we said that there are some important concepts to understand this mechanism, or the five core principles. This very important, like how to measure the risk and determine prices of financial instruments like bonds and stocks. The five core principles. The first concept is time has value, because uh, time is like has value because of the cost of waiting. The cost of waiting, like imagine that you have some money, amount of money, and if someone want to borrow this money from you, you have to wait. You have to wait until he or she return this money back, and this is the cost of waiting, because there are opportunity cost for this, because you can invest this money now and get return on this money. At least you can put this money in bank and receive fixed interest rate. That's that's the concept of time has value. It's very important. Uh, we use this concept especially in measuring the prices of financial instruments, bonds, and stocks. Also, the second concept is the risk requires compensation, and this makes sense because if there some projects you want to project to invest in this projects, and this uh, investment is risky, you will not invest in this investment unless there are high returns you expect. Maybe in this case you decide to invest in, but if there are small returns comparing to the risks, you avoid to invest it in this projects. And the same example, like imagine that if you lend the money, you have the money, some amount of money, and lend the money to some people. There are, in addition to time value, there are also risk, because maybe the borrowers don't return money back and you lose the money. Therefore, this the second concept. If anything is risky, you you want to at least compensate for this, or you ask for high return to be able to accept this investment. Information. The third concept is the information is the basis of for decisions, and it also it's very important because you cannot make decision without you don't have any information. In our example also, because if someone want to borrow from you, you must have information about this person because you cannot lend money to people you don't know. The fourth concept is market determine prices and location of resources through the mechanism of prices. And this also understood able concept because uh, bonds prices of bonds and stocks determine prices, and if the corporation and firms want to borrow from other sources, uh, they must prices of bonds of their bonds and stocks must high prices. This reflect their profitability, and this firms work well in economy. This will reflect on the prices of bonds and stocks, and if firms on or corporation does not work well, therefore will their stocks will don't have value, and no one want to give money to these firms. And this what's mean by this mechanism. uh, this means the prices through the forces of demand and supply determine the location, the optimal allocation of resources in economy. The second concept, the the final concept is stability improve welfare, because we saw, we will see later, when there are movement in prices and prices fluctuation in prices of financial instruments, that's that's make investment in this, and this make uncertainty, and this make risk the investment in financial instruments or financial markets very risky, and this will reduce welfare of people. Therefore, if prices, prices of bonds and prices of stocks, and also the consumer price index, the measurement of inflation, uh, and interest rate, also interest rate, all these indicators don't fluctuate very much, and we can predict their movement. This will reduce the risk in economy, and therefore will improve in welfare. And actually, the role for central banks and government is to stabilize the economy by monetary policy or fiscal policy. We will talk about this later. Now we use we talk about the first concept. Time has value, and we use this concept to measure the present value. And this concept is important, and important because we use this concept a lot in determination of prices of bonds and stocks. This concept in the money and financial system is very important. The present value, that's mean we want to determine the value. Want We want to determine the value if anything like money and bonds, any assistance that we don't receive now, we receive in the future. And this very important information for prices and make decision when banks make decision, give loans and or try to invest in the financial market. To understand this concept, the easy way to understand this concept is to imagine that you have some amount of money, extra money you don't need it for consumption, and you want to invest this money, and you put this money in commercial bank like time deposit, and you time deposit, and you the bank will give you fixed interest rate each year. Therefore, in this case, the future value of X of your money after 1 year will be your money in addition to the fixed interest rate multiplied by the total amount of your money. This your money will be in the end of year, and this equal to this because you can pull out x. It's just mathematics, and we pull x and we give this equation. This is the future value for investing or putting your money in time deposit, and which give you fixed interest rate. But this equation just for 1 year. What we take case, maybe imagine we extend time diminishing to 2 years. In this case, will be the facial value of your money is the amount of money in the end of year. That's your money, and the payment interest payment on your amount of money, and this will be your money in end of the first year. In the second year, the bank will give you interest rate and your all of your money at the end of the first year. Therefore, what you have in the end of the second year will be the total amount. This all we sum all this money. This is the future value. That's what you receive at the end of the second year. If you do just some mathematics and pull out x, and we have this term, and we solve for this, we get this equation. You can see from this 1 year, this 2 years, what has changed is like here, the power is one, this two. Therefore, we can generalize this equation for any time to be the same like this, but we put here time. Therefore, the future value for any amount of money is your money, and your money that's you have now. That's mean your money. That's mean you have now is the present value. Is measured for the present value. That's the money you get now. Is this total of money multiplied by this term. But we are interested not the future value. We are interested now in the present value. The present value for some amount we receive in the future. Some amount we receive in the future, we get this equation. Uh, but you must it is important to understand that this equation you cannot receive money uh, before the end of this time. You must. That means you bought time and forgot about this time. You bought money and you forgot about this money and receive this money at the end of years, whatever, 1 years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. The most important thing in this equation, you must notice that if the time here in years, time, we measure the time in years, the interest rate here, we measure interest rate, the annual interest rate. The interest rate in year, not in month or week or something like that. Because this is very important, you must notice that the time unit is and the interest rate measurement must be the same dimension. If you measure time in months, you must put here interest rate per month, not per. If you measure time here in years, we mean here interest rate, annual interest rate in years, in year. We said this equation, you cannot receive. Suppose this the time diminishing for this equation is 3 years. You cannot receive money for after 1 year or 2 years. You receive just money at the end of the third year. And we can extend this equation in case there are we receive you don't receive money at the end of time, but they give you payment each year. Each year you receive some payment, or you take from the bank some payment. Therefore, the Fisher value will be the total summation of the value that's received in the first year and the value the money you receive in the second year and until the end of time diminishing. You must distinguish between this equation and this equation. As I said, this equation you cannot receive money during the time period. You receive the money at the end of time period. In this equation, you receive money or receive payment at the end of each year. This equation, like you try, imagine that you invest in a project and you got returns on this investments, like profit or something like that each year, and this is will be the fair value for investing in this project. After understanding how we determine the future value, we use this concept in determination of bond prices. At first, you must understand the bond prices determine determine as any good or any assist in economy by the forces of demand and supply. Of course, you actually we take classes in macro. I understand this as any good. The price is equilibrium. We talk about the equilibrium price is determined by forces of demand and supply, and equilibrium that's mean when quantity supplied will be equal to quantity demanded. And there are this the prices of, you must understand in your main this point, the prices of bond determined in the financial market by forces demand and supply. And you must also understand the forces that will affect supply of bonds. We said that supply bonds like borrowing, if government there are deficits in budget, government budget, government maybe borrow increase borrowing their issue bonds more bonds and sell them in the financial market, and this will increase the supply. Also, uh, expectation about inflation will increase supply, because when there are expectation about there are increase in inflation, this this in benefit for borrowers, not in the lenders. Expectation of increase in inflation will increase supply of bonds and decrease demand of bonds, because expectation of increase in inflation is in benefit of borrowers, which are the bond issuers, and therefore supply increase. And the increase in inflation not in benefit for who buy the bonds in markets, which are lenders. Therefore, the demand, if there are expectation about increase in inflation, will decrease demand. Imagine that supply increase and the demand on bonds decrease. The most important thing you must understand just what I want from you. The prices of bonds determined in the market by forces of demand and supply. Now, after we now the prices of bonds determined in the market, we now to want to know the relation between bond prices and interest rate. We now see that we use the same concept of present value in determination a relation between bond prices and interest rate. Because like we take there are many types of bonds, uh, like zero coupon bonds and coupon bonds and consoles. But now we just take the case of coupon bonds, which give fixed interest payment each year during the time diminution of the bond, and by the face value of the bond at the end of time. And at the end of time, the bondholder will receive the fixed interest payment on this bond, and also will receive the face value of the bond. And before this, he receives just some amount of money. This the fixed payment of interest rate. Therefore, we can, because it can the present value of coupon bonds is the same equation that determines the present value for any money or any assist would be the relation like this. We talked before the prices of bonded here determined in the financial market by forces of demand and supply. Because that we know this, we know the prices of bonds, how we bought the bonds or how the bonds were selling in the market now, this price of bonds, and we know the fixed payment on the coupon, and we know the face value. There are just one unknown in this equation is the interest rate. The interest rate. Some people say interest rate or the yield on we can this will give us the interest rate or the yield on or the yield bonds yield or the yield on investment in bonds or interest rate. Therefore, you can see because this fixed, and this change by demand of forces and supply. Therefore, prices of bonds will determine the yield on bonds, or and actually will determine the interest rate in the whole economy. If we talk about the general case. Now we just assume coupon phase. We take example. We take for just a simple example. Assume that coupon face value and coupon payment equal 5%. Face value equal 100 face value. Then coupon yield or interest rate. This in this case we call the yield to maturity because the bondholder will hold the bond until time of maturity and not try to sell this bond or get rid from this bond before the time of maturity. Therefore, in this case, interest rate depends on the price of bond, which we said that is determined in the financial market by forces of demand and supply. Now we can do just mathematics, some mathematics. Given prices of bond, the value of interest rate or the yield on the bond that that solves the equation is the yield to maturity. We can determine this by this equation. We see that the yield to maturity depends on the bond prices. If bond price is 100, yield to maturity will be if bond price is 100, that means is equal to the face value. Yield to maturity will be 5%, which equal to the coupon rate. If bond price is below the face value of the bond, the yield to maturity will be more than the coupon rate. Why this happen? Because if bond prices is below the face value of the bond, we have two return or two yield. This means the current yield that you have the yield from this coming from the coupon rate, and also you have return from the difference between the bond price and the face value. In this case, the face value 100. Notice that if bond price is 105, yield to maturity is zero. Why this happen? Because there are coupon payment 5 5 5%, but see that the uh, the see that the price of bond is more than more than the face value of bond by 5%. Therefore, there are capital loss here in this case when prices is below prices of bond below the face value of bond there are capital gain, but here when the price bond price above the the face value of coupon there is capital loss. Therefore, there are the current yield. That's the yield from coupon payment is 5%, and the capital loss is 5%. Each cancel each other, and finally the yield to maturity will be zero. The most important distinction, just you know, there are first relation between bond prices and interest rate here. When bond prices go up, interest rate will go down, and and when the prices go down, interest rate will go up. That's very important in analyze. We will talk about this point later. Now we talk about the yield on maturity. Here we imagine that the bondholder the, does not keep. Excuse me. Bondholder keep the bond until time of maturity. Uh, but what happen if bondholder there are like maybe 3 4 years the time period time dimension for bond, but the bondholder maybe keep the bond for 1 year and keep the bond for 1 year, and after that he will sell the bond in the financial market because maybe he see that he this benefit from him to sell bank when the prices of bond is move up to in order to maintain capital gains. Example, we take example in this case, assume period of maturity of 5% coupon bonds. We make the example simple. We just go 2 years. Face face value of the bond 100. The bond holder decide to sell the bond in the end of the first year. Assume that the bond holder bought bond at 100. He bought down in the beginning of the first year. He bought the bond at 100 and the same face value, and he sell the bond at the end of first year by 105. When the prices of bond, we said that prices of bond determine the market. When the price of bond move up, he decide to sell the bond to gain capital capital gains. The difference, the most important point to know is that the capital gain is the difference there's the difference between capital prices. What we the price that we bought the bond and the price that we sell the same bond. In this case, the yield of the bond for the first holder of the bond is will be the current yield that's due the coupon rate during period of holding time. This five in percent. We said that the coupon rate is 5%. In addition to capital gain or losses, but because he sell the price by more than what he bought the bond, the yield bond in this case will be 5%. That's the current yield or the time of holding the current yield, and the change in the price, the percentage of the change in prices will the yield of bond in this case will be 10%. And actually, this uh, why people invest try to speculate in financial market by dependence on movement of prices of bonds and stocks, because try to bought uh, securities and see if there are prices will go up, and they try to sell. And this related to, as we said, this related to interest rate. Also movement will affect expectation about prices of bonds. Now we talk about the stocks and stock market. We will not talk very much, just we give simple example for stocks. Stock market as in like in the financial market, because stocks, we know stocks is different on bonds. You must understand that the stocks is different on bonds. The bond is like brown, but stocks, when someone buy stock, that's mean uh, he he like buy share in firms, and take share in firms or corporation, become a member of ownership, and the stockholder is entitled to participate in the profits of the enterprise. This means if you a member of ownership of firm make profit, positive profit, they will divide this profit uh, as the stock as the stock statement said. They will take some share of profit. There will be divided in some returns on the stocks. Therefore, the stocks is different from bonds, because stocks will reflect the situation of firms or corporations that issue issue that issue this stocks. If this corporation and firm is in good situation and make positive profit, let's make their stocks in the market high prices. That's their value will be more than value other firms that's does not do well in the market. and uh, and actually, of course, people want to buy stocks that give high return or make profit, and uh, make good process in economy. And this we talk about the concept of market efficiency. That's mean That's why I said that market prices and market determine allocation of resources. Uh, Now we talk about how to determine value or prices of stocks. There are many approaches, but we talk about divide in discount model like the present value, the same. Remember that this is the same method of determine the present value we use also here and determine the value of bonds because uh, when you the value excuse me value of stocks, the does not give you fixed interest rate, but there are some profit share of profit you receive in first year and maybe second year. Each year you receive profit, and in the end of period you sell the stock at price B in. Therefore, in the end period, you when you sell, you receive this. When you sell the stock, you receive this money, and therefore, how we to calculate the value of bond is like the same concept of present value we used before, but just now variables change. D not fixed interest rate here in stocks. Here is like divide in this each year, and maybe not necessarily the same this year, not maybe different, and also the same principle apply here. Prices of stocks determined in the market by forces of demand and supply, and this now this or we expect this because there are this also we cannot expect situation or profitability of firms in future. We just expect that, make expectation about this, and this will affect also the yield on stocks or interest rate. Because we said that this divide in this, we don't exactly know as like in stocks, like excuse me, like in bonds, but just we make expectation about growth of profit or economy or something like that. Therefore, we can make this equation not enter how to drive. We just I give you a simple idea to understand the concept. Uh, will be like if there are growth in economy and firms grow and make profit, this make the divide in this is grow over time, and this equation show the divide in the end period is equal divide in this time and multiplied by this term. This is the growth rate, expected growth rate of the growth in profit or in defining. This is the time period. We can take this concept and block this in this equation. Will not prove this, but is this true? And just understand the final equation. This one, price today. If we block this here in this equation, we get the final equation. You just take care with this equation. The price of stocks today is depends on defined index today multiply by expected to growth expected to growth in defined index per interest rate minus growth rate. See this very important because see that uh, because we don't know here that maybe we now defined index today, but this depends on acceptation, and therefore the acceptation will affect the value of stocks today. If acceptation about the economy is good, the prices of stocks will go up. That's very important. And also there are inverse relation between interest rate and stock prices. If interest rate go up, the value of stocks prices go down, and vice versa. And this very important for the stocks value of stocks, especially what you had in news. That's maybe this will explain movement of prices in stock market because we said that it's given that it's fixed or stable is dependent will on the acceptation about the performance of company, especially large company in economy. Now we talk about the prices of bonds. We talked about the prices of bonds and stocks and how these prices of bonds and stocks determined in the financial market by forces of demand and supply, and therefore many forces that make prices change. As the quantity of money will change, the quantity of money will change consumer prices. Uh, this changes related to this, and also this movement in like interest rate measured in monthly treasury bill. Interest rate the opposite is reflected in the bond prices. If you see the opposite, and this Dow Jones Industrial Average, this reflect the prices of stocks, the the value of the movement of value of stocks in market. This reflect the value of stocks in the financial market. This reflect interest rate will reflect the bond prices in financial market, and this will reflect the prices in the whole economy. The most important thing we want you to learn is see that there are a lot of movement. This means we cannot predict what will happen in the future. That's mean the risk. That's what we mean the risk. That's mean if you want to investment in bonds, assume that you want to investment in bonds. Uh, you don't know in the future. Maybe the bonds of prices of bonds maybe will go up or go down. If you buy bonds now and the prices of bonds go up, you will make capital gains, and if prices go down, will make capital losses. And also in this case in here, therefore, because economy not stable, there are risk and uncertainty because we don't know what happened in the future. This is what mean about uncertainty and the future. We now talk about the risk and its measurement. How to measure the risk? We understand that the risk The concept of risk is related to uncertainty. We don't know if you want to investment in some project. You don't know if you can get capital gain or capital loss. There are some uncertainty. If there are certainty, there are no risk, and this very important. Therefore, we just link the concept of risk and to uncertainty because as uncertainty increase, the risk increase. How to measure risk? There are two measurement of risk as you read in the book. It's the first is the standard deviation sigma because an statistical measure is a statistical measure and standard deviation is show how the variable change over time. How this like the standard deviation is the root of the variance and the variance is show how the variable change. If there are any variation in variable over time, the variation will be very high and the standard deviation is very high. And also standard deviation is show you the deviation of any value from the mean. And this case, because we talk about uncertainty, the mean will be expected value, the expected value. Therefore, uh, uh, this considered measure of how as standard deviation is considered a measure as a measure of risk as the value of standard deviation increase the risk increase. And in order to calculate standard deviation we must calculate the variance first. We cannot get standard deviation directly because standard deviation is the root of the variance. uh, the standard deviation, the variance, we now take just example how to calculate this. The standard deviation is the root of the variance. Therefore, we have to calculate the variance first. The variance first, you have, in order to calculate the variance, because now in this example we talk about uncertainty. The certainty does mean there uncertainty. We talk about uncertainty, risk related to uncertainty. Therefore, there are some probability for outcome. Imagine that you want to invest in some project and invest some amount of money in some any project, and you don't know what is your buy off of this, what you return, what you will get from this project. There are probability like 10% or 10% will get 100. There are high probability like 40% will get 700, 40% also will get 1400, and 10% also will get 2000. You must notice that the summation probability must be equal to 1, and this is the case for each case and its probability. The first step to calculate the variance is to calculate the expected value, which here will be the mean as the mean. The expected value, we must have calculated the expected value. The expected value, it's very simple. We just calculate the expected value. You multiply the probability for each by f by it is you multiply each by f by its probability. Here, like you get 100 probability point 1. You multiply 100 by point 1 and do this for all each cases and take the summation of all together. You multiply this by this and multiply this by this and multiply this by this, multiply this by this and take the summation of all. This this will be give you the expected value, which here is considered as the mean. Now, note that we now talk how to calculate variance. We calculate the expected value, which here in this case is $1,050. Here, 1,000 expected value. We now we take the deviation of the buy up from expected value at each case. The buy up in the first case 100 expected value. This deviation uh, 100 minus the expected value. Second case 700 minus expected, and this the deviation is like standard deviation here. But see that why we cannot take this measure because we have negative. If we take some of this, maybe we will get 0. Therefore, we cannot have anything about measure of how value, any value, deviate from the mean, which is here the expected value. What should do in this case? We calculate this. We like square each here, each amount here. We calculated here. We take the square to get rid from the sign. This amount of money, this money, and this is the square of this amount of money. This is the square. See that they're all numbers in positive here. After that, the final step, we take the summation of all this here. The summation of all this money here. This will be the variance. This will be the variance. If we wanna to the variance, if we want standard deviation is the root of the variance will give be us this the standard. Finally we will get the standard deviation, and which is the measure of risk how uh, the buy off or return deviate from the expected mean, from the expected value. That mean this if you want to investment in some project and you expect to return 1,000, if standard error of is very high, that mean is this project is very risky. Thank you and thank you and remember that in this presentation I just give like insight, not complete picture, and I don't talk about details, but that does not mean that details is not important. You have to read the book because like financial instrument is bonds, like there are many types of bonds. You have to read them, and stocks, there are many different types of stocks. Also, financial market, there are different market of financial market. But because of little time, we cannot cover this. I just give complete picture to like I don't know to maybe enhance your understanding for the class material. Thank you and good luck.